Alright, so it is the beginning-ish of November 2023, and we've got ammo to do 1 or 2 paintball groups left, and then that's it. So, as we're doing these final events, people will often ask, why are you quitting? And so Dad's got his shorthand answer, just that he's been doing it for 26 years and that he wants a break. And yeah, not that I need to provide proof of that either, but I've got some historical footage that I've been going through. So this is from 2002. This was a bunch of mining executives. And I remember we made up t-shirts before the event. It felt like a big deal at the time, and they rolled up in this big chartered bus, and it just felt special, I guess. High-class people coming to do something that we had to offer. Anyway, so part of what people I think are asking though when they say, why are you quitting paintball, is why are you quitting to do laser tag? So laser tag's got this, the word has this baggage with it, I suppose, of playing in like a dark maze-like room, and you maybe can't even run because there's a danger of like crashing into people at corners, and all the combat's like point-blank shooting. So outdoor isn't like that, but it's true that there is a physicality that's lost when you're moving from paintball to laser. So more historical footage here. Pump guns. Pump guns were superior, a superior way of doing combat.
I'm under fire!
This guy's surrounded, and he's gonna get flanked in the back and shot in the back in just a moment here. But yeah, there's like a physicality to having something zip past you here.
He's hit.
Kudos to my brother for getting that shot. But yeah, so there's like a physicality to having something zip past you or smash into the barricade beside you that laser's just not gonna recreate. But I think the way to look at it is it's a trade-off. You lose the thrill of like shooting and being shot, but what are you gaining? So I've been trying to capture that. We had a family out for their son's birthday party, and the father and son were good enough to lug around my action cameras on their laser guns. So I'm just gonna do a bit of a play-by-play of some footage that I captured with them. Just to set that up first though, I've got some drone footage. They were doing a capture the flag game, and so the blue team's flag box is on the left-hand side here. Gold team's is on the other side. In the middle of this part of the playing field, there is a valley with trees in it. And then on the right-hand side, the gold side, there's also this tall 3-level sniper tower. So I'm just gonna jump straight into the footage here. Alright, so here is the weapon of iron and plastic, mostly plastic. It has a red dot sight, and the guns have a range of about 60 yards, a little bit better at night. Like baby gophers who haven't learned to watch the sky. The gold team is wandering into a clear field of fire there. The Hawk has received some return fire. He's down to 50% health, I can tell by the sound that his gun is making. He's pushed up into the valley. There's the sniper tower. The sniper in the sniper tower goes into panic mode that he's been spotted. So he's gonna keep pushing up here into the valley. He's using cover well. The footage doesn't really do justice to that.
Kill. Dead already, dead already. Dead already, dead already.
So if he is a hawk circling a field and harvesting gophers, he has got one on every talon at this point. Okay, so just to update on where he's at, he's pushing through the trees here, flanking around a little bit to try to get to his objective, the gold team's flag box right here, which we will see again in a second. So there's the gold team's flag box. He's not close enough to just swoop in and steal a flag and get back out. He's gonna have to push up further here. His gun will have healed up from that damage that he took towards the start of the game though. Okay, he just took another hit. So a normal hit takes about 12 seconds to heal up from. Okay, and so the paradox that he's up against here is any gold player he takes out, they don't have that far to get back to their medic box after they die. They can just come back to life, and they'll have a memory of where he shot them from. So he's going to meet his maker here in a second. Okay, and there's the warrior that took him out. So he's going to have to head back to his medic box and bring himself back to life, and then the cosmic symmetry of laser battle continues. Anyway, so the correct way to look at it, I think, is that it is a trade-off. You lose the thrill of paintball, and you're gaining things, though, and that would be the range that the guns shoot at, which is about twice as far, but the accuracy is maybe 3 times as far. And so then you have that feedback when you hit someone, and then when you're being shot, of course, and there's no cheating. You know that when somebody their gun dies, they're out, they have to head back to the medic box, and they can't do anything until they do that. So yeah, it kind of plays out like a real-time first-person shooter. Now the downside is that you can't carry, like from a business standpoint, you can't carry a 2-hour event on the fact that people get to use laser tag guns. Paintball does have that benefit. Like, everything's great when you're playing paintball. It's just exciting to shoot and be shot. But I think you have to remember that does wear off after a time. And so it's great if you have fresh bodies coming in, but I think it's also possible to coast on that. Like, it's a great trick, but maybe paintball has been kind of a one-trick pony. Anyways, and we haven't been immune to that. Like, I can think of a group of young guys that came out and supported us in the early years. Super enthusiastic. They just got really good, always shooting and maneuvering, and you'd have these epic standoffs. Yeah, because they knew that if you just kind of hunkered down and weren't aggressive, you just get outmaneuvered. And I remember it was terrifying to play against them as a 14, 15, 16-year-old. It was formative, like playing against these guys that knew how to put mind over matter. Probably still haven't fully learned to apply that in my life. But yeah, for that group of guys, eventually the experience or the excitement of paintball wore off, and we kind of lost momentum with them, and their group numbers started falling. They'd come out for several years, multiple times per year over several years, but yeah, the momentum was lost. We started to try to improvise, add depth to current games that we had, but yeah, and that might be simplistic, that there was a missed opportunity there. People just go through phases like hobbies, and then they move on to the next thing, or they get married and have kids. So yeah, but I think it's absolutely possible also to coast on your strength. Yeah, so if you're trying to create depth in the experience for customers, how do you do that? So I'm just going to talk about a game that we play now that kind of could trace its roots back to one of the games that we were trying to modify to keep that bunch of guys entertained. Scrap Hawk Down, we call it now. So it's an attack and defend game. Attackers start at the safe zone. They need to get into our Scrap Hawk, our imaginary downed helicopter here, to rescue a dummy. And attackers have unlimited lives back at the safe zone, but then the defenders, once they're hit, they're done. So it's just a matter of time before the attackers get in there and rescue the dummy. But on their way back with the dummy, they have to go through a small obstacle course. So first part of the obstacle course is going under metal bar, then they have to go over a tall wooden spool, and then the attackers bring the dummy the rest of the way, use it to stop a stopwatch, and that gives us a time, and then we just switch sides, do it again, and the team that can do it the quickest is the winner. So I remember I was actually embarrassed for a long time to make people go through that obstacle course. It just seemed kind of silly or frivolous to me, but it turns out that people actually really enjoyed it. It was like a rite of passage. You'd have repeat customers come back and kind of groan that they had to do it, but there was an excitement to it as well. And so I think my dad has been better at just improvising and trying things, not afraid to fail if a game doesn't really work. But, and I've kind of struggled with that, like with airsoft groups, I know I would feel embarrassed as well. It seemed like a formality again. You know, I would just tell myself in the moment that, well, the defenders are often dead by the time the attackers get into the helicopter anyways, so it's just it's a formality to take them over. The game is done at that point. But here's some footage. You know, defender wasn't dead. Took out the player that was moving the dummy. So I think the more objectives that you put into a game, the more opportunity there is for creativity on both sides. And, you know, and maybe for newer players or casual players that don't come out too often, you keep the game simple. But I think you need to have kind of some tricks up your sleeve for more experienced players just to keep things fresh and interesting. Anyway, so stepping back to what creates a good customer experience, I haven't talked about this, obviously you need reliable guns just for that shooting aspect. You need decent games, but then where do other things like the playing field come in? As a business, you've only got so many resources to spread around. What's more important? Do you want to have a really long game menu, but like not too much playing area, not too many maps, to use the video game term? Or do you want just a few solid games, Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, maybe a couple others, and lots of different maps, lots of different playing area for people to enjoy? And judging by the name of this channel, maybe you guess, like, I think that's ultimately what's important. That's what keeps things fresh, is having multi-maps. As proof of that, I mean, you could think of golf even. You know, people have their home course, but then they want to go out and play other courses sometimes too. Video games, no matter which platform, you know, first-person shooter platform you're on, the game names might be different, but like basically they're the same. And then also airsoft milsims. We would see, or we've had a milsim called Operation Loyal Serpent that's been hosted in past at our field for multiple years, and we would see guys from all over Western Canada come to that. And a big part of that is that the organizers, who are just guys that are in the local airsoft community, they've done a really good job of coming up with fun but memorable like scenarios for the guys to play through. And so yeah, it's just been well organized from a game standpoint. But then we also got a lot of compliments on just the playing area. People seem to enjoy just like the variety of terrain, the amount of cover that they had close to the safe zone. They weren't burning out, kind of wandering too far to get into battles. So yeah, we would see people travel from all over the place to come to that event. But then we would also see the inverse of that, where local players would go to other cities or other provinces to play in milsims as well, or even down into the States. Here is some footage from the guys that actually have organized OLS, that milsim that has been held at our place. And yeah, this is from down in the States, a milsim that they went out to. Check out their channel. I'll put a link to it in the description. But yeah, it's a chance for them to get out and play themselves. But then they could also see what was working in terms of scenarios and games that were being played throughout the day, but then also how the terrain was working, and then the flow of players towards objectives, and then the flow of players, you know, away from the combat once they were hit, and then how they would respawn and get back into the game. Anyway, so yeah, maps are important. Saying that, the irony also isn't lost on me that by us decreasing the amount of maps available to local players by one, we're like going against what I'm saying is important here. Anyways, so, and that brings up another question of, well, if the father's tired, why doesn't the son take over? It's just kind of the natural order of things. So I've thought about that, and I mean, my dad's thought about it too, and I think it kind of comes down to personal interests and what you're good at, and also where the value in the business lies. So on the most superficial level, like, I'm not like a huge gun guy anymore. we're not into the combat side of things in general. My brother and I did play on a paintball team in the very early years after Dad started the business, and I've enjoyed it when guys have handed me an airsoft pistol at the end of the match and just said, go out and do some damage, have some fun. But yeah, I've also realized like I'm not falling all over myself to play. So the playing field then, like, it's pretty expansive what we've developed, and we've tried to get the layout so it's balanced and fair side to side, no matter which side of the playing field the team is starting on. But I've also found that we're not out there just like tweaking firing lanes, adding new barriers, moving barricades around. Our attention just seems to fall on the games, developing new games and the equipment to play them. In my opinion, that's where our strength is. So you can only do so many things in life, and I think by focusing on our strengths and doing it in the context of laser tag, the quality of the action tag experience could improve kind of on other maps beyond just our own. That would involve us selling stuff, and that's something that's been in the back of our head for like many years. We don't have anything to sell yet, but just, I don't know, a heads up. You might be watching one long ad by subscribing to this channel or watching these videos. Not that that would be new. I mean, that's YouTube. But yeah, and it makes sense for us to do that in the context of laser tag because, and maybe I didn't make this point clear, but that laser tag, you can't carry the event on the thrill of shooting and being shot. So you get really quick, honest feedback, I think, from people doing laser tag, whether a game is good or not, and whether they're engaged by it. So anyways, yeah, long rambly episode. Hopefully that gives some insight into why we're doing what we're doing. Thanks for tuning in.